Hey, what's up? In this video, we're going to be talking about how to write good copy for Facebook ads, part 1. Now, I've been using this framework and this strategy for several years, and it's really important because if you mess this part up, you can actually keep people away from your church instead of bringing them in. So let's dive in and I'll show you exactly what to write. All right, so in this video, I'm going to be walking you through the framework that I've used to write Facebook ads for thousands of churches and attract thousands of new visitors. And I'm even going to be sharing with you a strategy that's going to make people freak out and say, oh my gosh, this guy is in my head. The first thing you want to do before you write absolutely anything at all is you want to think about who it is you're trying to reach. What is the ad promoting, and what's the next step that you want them to take, right? So you have to actually figure out who it is, and then you have to take a look and say, okay, so if we know we want to reach young families with elementary school age kids, and maybe we want to invite them to come out to a new marriage series that we're doing, right? Okay, so now that we know kind of the demographic that we're looking for, we need to go deeper, right? So it's not enough to just say, oh yeah, young families. So, people ages 25 to 35 who have kids who are in elementary school or middle school, right? It's way too broad of a range. People that are 25 are dealing with something completely different than people that are 35. So what we want to do is we actually want to dive in and we want to give this person a name. So I recommend choosing either a guy or a girl. Now, in a case like this, if you were going to be inviting people out to a marriage series, if it were me, I would probably try to write to women because I know more women are going to see this ad and they're probably more likely to have women drag their husbands to a marriage series than the other way around. Okay, so we're trying to reach young families with elementary school age kids. So let's give them an age and a name. I would say we're writing to Jennifer, okay? And Jennifer is 35 years old. She's married and she has 3 kids, okay? Now we want to sit down and we want to ask ourselves, what is it that Jennifer's life looks like and what is it that she's dealing with, right? So maybe Jennifer is married, but with the pandemic and everything that's going on, maybe her husband's working and she's staying at home with the kids, but because of COVID, he's had to work a lot more, right? So maybe he's not around as much and they're experiencing some distance in their marriage. And on top of that, she had to go through this crazy time for like a year during COVID of actually trying to figure out how to homeschool her kids because the schools were shut down. So even now, as kids have gone back to school, she probably had to deal with this really interesting dichotomy of trying to be a wife and a mother and a homeschool teacher all at the same time of still keeping the household together. And she probably can't remember the last time she had a date night with her husband, right? This is a lot of stress and a lot of things that are probably weighing on Jennifer, right? So the next step is we want to ask ourselves, what's keeping her up at night, right? So what are the things that's literally keeping Jennifer from being able to fall asleep? She's laying in bed at night, tossing and turning, right? Maybe she's worried about her marriage, right? Maybe because they haven't had a date night in so long, or because he's been working so hard and so long lately, and there's just been so much distance. Maybe she's really worried that he's not as in love with her as he used to be. Or maybe because she's had 3 kids and she's put on a little bit of weight, now she's worried that he's not attracted to her anymore. And maybe that's one of the reasons that he's been so distant, right? So what are these things that are keeping Jennifer up at night? And you want to actually write these things out. So it may be that her husband's working, her kids are back in school, and she used to work, but now that she's become a stay-at-home mom, she's having trouble getting out of bed in the morning. She's having trouble finding a reason or something to put her hand to, and she can't figure out what her purpose is, right? We want to figure these things out for Jennifer. We want to write them down, and then that's what we're going to use to craft our ad copy. All right, step number 2, write to one person about one thing. So now that we know that we are writing to Jennifer, that she's 35 years old, has 3 kids, she was homeschooling her kids while her husband was working. Now her kids are back and she's struggling with the distance in her marriage, and she might be worried a little bit about her self-image, and she's definitely trying to find her purpose. Now, these are the type of things that we can use to speak to Jennifer. So we're not trying to write to Jennifer and her kids and her husband and also single moms and also empty nesters. We're going to write our ad copy specifically to 35-year-old Jennifer. So you want to speak to one person about one thing, and here's a good rule of thumb. If you say more than one thing, you say nothing at all because people won't hear you. So you need to focus on one thing. So before I show you exactly what this ad might sound like, go ahead and subscribe below. We put out brand new videos every single day, 5 days a week. All right, so number 3, the magic sauce is actually in the words you write, not in the ad itself, right? It's the words that cause people to take action. And so what we want to do is we want to use the words, the ad copy that we're writing, to make people feel like, oh my gosh, you're in my head, and they make an emotional connection with your ad, and then they're open to taking the next step in the ad. Okay, so an ad for Jennifer might say something like this. So you might use a call out like, hey, stay-at-home moms, or hey, Tulsa moms. Have you been so busy focusing on everyone else that you haven't taken time to focus on yourself? Are you having trouble trying to remember when the last time you were on a date night? Or maybe you can't remember the last time you had an adult conversation with another grown-up. Maybe you simply feel like you're wandering through life trying to find your purpose, wondering if your spouse is even still attracted to you. I want to invite you out to our brand new marriage series, I Want a New Marriage. And in that, we're going to be talking about purpose inside of your marriage. We're going to be talking about how to rekindle the spark that you had back when you were dating and you were newlyweds. We're going to talk about how to navigate the uncharted waters of having kids and still trying to figure out how to foster intimacy and connect with your spouse. And we're actually even going to give you a framework for how to reconnect with your spouse and find your calling and figure out your purpose. We'll see you Sunday at 10 o'clock. Okay, now think about Jennifer's reaction if she sees an ad like that on Facebook. We know what's keeping her up at night. We know what she's going through. We know her insecurities and the things she's wondering about. If Jennifer saw that ad, do you think she'd show up to the marriage series on Sunday? You're darn tootin' she would. Heck yeah. I mean, you literally just hit all of her hot buttons. You literally tapped into every single thing that's keeping her up at night, that's running through her head constantly, 90 miles an hour, every single day, all day, right? And so literally Jennifer's going to look at that and she might even start crying and go, oh my gosh, they're in my head. This is exactly what I need. Well, of course it is, because we didn't just throw together a Facebook ad. We actually took time to figure out who we were writing to. We gave her a name. We know how old she is. We know her marital status and how many kids she has. And now, because we know what she's struggling with, we can write directly to Jennifer. And here's what's going to happen. By writing to one person, you're actually going to reach a ton more. If you try to reach to everybody, you're actually going to hit nobody. But if you take time to actually take more of a sniper approach and talk to one person, then you're actually going to reach tons of people. So now that you know the secret sauce for writing ad copy that really connects with people and makes you feel like you're in their head, check out part 2 as we talk about exactly how to move them to action and get them to show up on Sunday morning. Click the link in the description below. We'll see you in part 2.